Hey, we're back here this week with Rich Cummings. Last week we talked about the Super Trike and how he built it in a little bit. Now, you started talking about touring a little bit. You did the Pontiac Silverdome, your first show, and then you started booking the truck and doing a lot of shows. Tell us a little bit about doing some of those shows. Well, one of the questions I know these guys are going to ask, did you have any close calls of crashing the thing?
Yeah, it got uncomfortable a couple times,
Okay.
but I put a roll cage on it and figured, well, this is nothing to be rolling, so I tried to make that. Fortunately, I never had to use it. I had a counterweight fall off once, and that was really unpleasant because the front end came down really, really hard.
I can imagine. So now tell us about some of the touring, because you had your family with you. You had a motorhome rig that you'd put together, and you went everywhere.
Yeah, we covered some territory. Well, see, what happened in Pontiac was, I can remember the date, February 22nd.
Okay.
I still remember that. This was the middle of the winter, and of course, there was nothing to go from there to. But the one thing is, I sent information on it, a write-up and that, to several of the magazines. One was three-wheeler, something like three-wheeler and four-wheeler action or something like that. And they really did a bang-up job of putting pictures in and pictures from Pontiac and so on.
Huh.
Well, then the phone started ringing. And so I started booking summer shows.
Okay.
One of the first calls I got was from John Borba, lives in California. And he did some shows in California, and he also did Hawaii. The Aloha Bowl.
Okay.
There at the college.
And John Borba's been around, forever, and he's still doing shows. One of our big fans, Christopher Allen, I think actually goes and helps him with some of the announcing. So it's kind of cool. So tell us a little bit about that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it was fun meeting John because he's a guy that he did all the shows and he did all that sort of thing. But you could sit down and talk to him and just a real of course. Most of the people I've met in this business have been the best people in the world. But he said, well, I want you in Turlock in May, and I want you back to go to Hawaii in July. Well, in the interim, I picked up a couple shows. I believe it was with Darnell's brothers, and Neil and Brad, I believe it was. And but they weren't monster truck shows. They were pulling contests.
Okay.
But what pulling had been around for a while. It was, not easy to get somebody excited about saying another tractor pull in the commercial. So what they did is they wanted me to show it, doing a wheelie through the commercial and that to get some excitement up with the people. So their kids could drag them out and they could go watch the pulling contest. So I did that. We did one or two shows on the way to California for the 4th of July show that he had. Did a couple shows on the way back, and that kind of got a little bit of momentum going. Then I did a few other shows, but very early on I met Rev. How's it pronounced his last name? Prochnow?
I
think it's Rev Prochnow, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but that's close.
Yeah.
Everybody knows
Everybody knows Rev.
Everybody knows Rev. He was a dynamite promoter, and he's.
And he was big into wrestling too, I think.
Oh my, yeah, we did some of them.
Yeah, he did a lot of controversial wrestling back before with like the Jello and different things. That's another story on another program.
Yeah, but
because actually I think you were involved in some of them Jello wrestling, but we can't talk about that here. This is a family program. So tell us about working with Rev.
Yeah, well, we can do the G-rated thing. See, Robocop was a big deal back then. Okay. That was the hot thing. And so he hired a Robocop guy to come out, and he would do different things and so on. But when you're doing a show that is either monster trucks or something like that in a high school gymnasium, he could put things together that you never would have thought would work, and they worked. But then they gave me his name, and so I got a hold of him, and he said, well, it's too late this year because they booked shows in January, but he said next year, and I want you for fairs during the summer. So we did an awful lot of fair shows.
Yeah, you had one string of shows that was just unbelievable.
Yeah, we did, in 46 days, we did 43 shows.
That's unbelievable.
As a matter of fact, that's the first place I met Fred, is we was doing a fair show someplace in the middle of Missouri in the afternoon, and we had to be 150 miles away that night to do another one. Well, it was easy for me because but he was changing his tires, and it was funny because.
And this is Fred Schaefer, right?
Yeah,
You're talking about Barefoot?
Fred the Barefoot. And he's really, really got to work. And Kathy was there, and she was trying to help him. And Fred's a take charge and let's get her done himself. And she was in there, and I remember her saying, she said, "Well, I can help with that. I'm no wimp." But Kathy was a dynamo.
Oh yeah.
And so amongst those shows, we did those shows for him. But we were gone for 6 weeks straight.
Yeah.
And so it was a very, very busy time.
Yeah, and luckily you didn't have to change tires or anything, because
Thank goodness.
man, I was on some tours, not quite that many shows in that short of time, but you just do 3 or 4 shows in 1 week, and that's a exhausting deal. You know, it's not, back in those days it wasn't anything like today where everybody has crew members and the driver gets out and fluffs his hair and signs autographs and gets in a motorhome and goes to the next one, and the truck meets him there. It wasn't like that back then.
Oh, no. It was,
and half the battle was getting there, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got that. Well, this is not even on topic, but it is. It's like, did you ever get directions? This is before GPS. Did you ever get directions on how to get to a show from a promoter? Promoters' brains aren't wired for maps. And it was like, oh, it's just down the road. He sent us to a show over in Ohio someplace, and he said, well, it's just down the road from this town, 45 minutes away.
Yeah. And then they go by a little, when you pass this big oak tree, you got to take a left. And you're going, you keep looking, where's this oak tree? Of course, it's 3 a.m. and you're tired.
Yeah, and they cut the tree down 2 years ago.
Yeah, I've been there, done that.
Yeah. So I met Fred kind of progressively over a period of time, the 3-wheeler. Fred was a good guy to talk to. The interesting thing about Fred, he's very, very competitive. He was an old pro stock drag racer, and horsepower was king and weight was that. So, but I was an old drag racer too, so I could kind of communicate with him on those levels.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of shows, we did that. Then Rev got me into doing work for Broadway Bob. Broadway Bob, if he's not he's got to be a legend. I mean, he is the epitome of a guy that would promote almost anything. We was doing a show, and what the front fender is like on a 3-wheeler. He wanted to set on the front fender of that with the front end 8 feet off the ground and go down in front of the grandstand. And I'm thinking, this is the guy that's paying me for this. How do I tell him no? Because it's like, but when it comes down bounces and I drive over him, and it isn't going to be very good. So I had to kind of work him around that a little bit. Great Lakes Dragaway back then was fantastic. I haven't been there recently, but you can go in there and you can spend the entire weekend there and never leave. They got showers, they got good bathrooms, they had great chicken. They had this great big thing that they cooked chicken on, and on one side of the drag strip, they had dirt. So they had monster trucks, they had the 3-wheeler running there. Sometimes I ran the asphalt. A lot of times they had monster trucks in and they'd be racing, they'd be doing anything to promote jet dragsters. But he did a tremendous amount of things. He's in the perfect place. If I lived halfway between Detroit and Chicago, I would definitely want to find a place out of the way. And that's where he was. He was halfway between them.
Yep.
In Union Grove, Wisconsin.
Yep. A lot of people went and seen his shows.
Yeah. But the good thing is, you could go and spend the weekend. You could camp. You didn't have to drive back to Chicago after the races. So but he put on a good show. Yeah. I never heard complaints about entertaining the people there, because he was good at it.
Yeah, he always had a entertaining show. Well, hopefully you guys are enjoying this. Next episode, we're going to talk some more in depth with Rich about some other projects that he worked on with Fred Schaefer, and then some of the other trucks that he built. Please like us and subscribe, and hope you guys are enjoying these.